action.
All right. Hello, everyone. This is Terso 20, and we are going to talk to you about community through the eyes of Rondo. My name is Rayora. We have Jaconetta and Don.
Welcome to our community.
So, in our book, The Art of Community, we have a section that resonated with our video stories. Stories sharing certain stories deepens a community's connection. If people don't know or they can't learn your stories, they don't know or understand your community. So we're going to talk to you a little bit about Rondo and more specifically Rondo Days. It's been a tradition to share and have a festival of events since 1983. This is some visuals from this year's Rondo Days that was on yesterday, Saturday, while we were in class. I try to go to Rondo Days as much as I can. I've been going since I was a little girl. My parents found it important for me to come and learn more about Rondo, the neighborhood, which I grew up in, and also just being able to have this connection. I'd go with my family, friends, see people from school, teachers, community members. It's just always a wonderful time. As you know, KMOJ is our neighborhood radio station, and they are always there supporting. So it's just a great time.
And I grew up in the Rondo neighborhood at 1088 North Dale Street, and I remember growing up as a kid in the 60s and 70s, all the opportunities, stores and movie theaters and the things in the Rondo neighborhood that were black owned, black operated, barbershops. I mean, just tons of stuff. And it was a close knit community because no one went hungry. You never saw anybody out on the corner of 94 and Dale Street with signs asking for money. And there were gas stations everywhere ran by black community members. And the neighborhood was kind of routed. But the Rondo's Days piece is a celebration. It's kind of a band-aid to adjust what was taken from that community. The soul and heart was ripped out of the community. And it's unfortunate, but putting 94 through caused a lot of damage. It fractured and splintered the whole business infrastructure, much like the Tulsa massacre that happened in history.
So I am familiar with Rondo Days with the book written by Evelyn Fairbanks, The Days of Rondo. I use that text in the classroom when I try to use nonfiction text so the students can make a connection to their homes in their cities. When I read the Rondo Days, I interpreted it as a way for communities to come together, a way for people to reminisce about past events, a way for individuals to share in a connected experience. And because I'm not from Minnesota, I am from Illinois. I connect this very succinctly with the Bud Billiken Parade, which happens every year around Labor Day, similar but different, where we come together to commence the freedom of 1950s and just recognizing our heritage, bringing back our culture to the cities and rummaging through downtown Chicago so that our voices are always continued to be heard throughout time. So community is really important to me as I come from Harvey, Illinois, as connected to the city of Rondo in St. Paul, Minnesota.
Our next quote by Block is, there's a shift in ownership of this place, even though others are in charge. And that's just the irony in that is like page 32 in Block. He talks about the fertility context, community as a problem to be solved. And this is so true. And it's kind of a new learning for me also in the book, because what happened with Rondo, the separation, the splintering of the community and the building back now of the community, and to see what we got or see what we will get, is there are others in charge, and it's not the original founders or the people that lived in Rondo. It's a hierarchy that has to be addressed on a regular basis in order for us, that community to have some kind of semblance of togetherness and be back together and be as strong as they were. And it's the jury is still out on to see if that will happen. But the positivity toward that is amazing, and just seeing that community being built and the community as a problem to be solved, quote, inside a block, is something to really observe the evolution of the new Rondo neighborhood.
The Rondo neighborhood was and still is the heart of the Black community. 1950s, when Highway 94 kind of like stripped it in half, it was crazy, where over 80% of African Americans were affected, their homes were affected, their communities were affected, their travel was affected, every piece of it, in which Rondo Days kind of inspired communities to come together and continue to celebrate the fact that regardless of what comes through, it still stays united. Much like early 1900s, where the Great Migration came about and kind of pinpointed those folks in that same aspect, splitting communities with railroads and new developments and buildings so that individuals could be separated from their families, could be separated from their extended families, so that they would have to travel further than they would like to in order to stay connected. Again, I'm connecting this to Bud Billiken and my culture, my heritage, in which the same aspect took place. It was the only time that individuals in South Chicago could come together and put aside um, their gang initiatives, could put aside their trauma, could put aside everything. And we're really big on bartering in our state, in our city. So individuals came together, and block parties were essential to our living. Our communities came together through our block parties. And our character, Bud Billiken, meant being friendly, being communal, being prideful of taking care of children, being a watcher of children, much like the character Jim Crow, which is how some people may assimilate the splitting of Rondo community with Highway 94 as it is its own entity. You will hear from an elder's account of what Rondo did in the next slide. His name happens to be Elder Floyd G. Smaller Jr., and he took his own personal connection to what the construction meant within his family, and you'll hear it from his own voice.
I remember Rondo by Floyd G. Smaller Jr. I remember Rondo for the fun we had. I remember Rondo through the good and the bad. I remember the people and I remember the faces. I remember the old folks, the children, and their bright shining faces. I remember the streetcar rides on Sunday afternoon. I remember playing hide and seek under a bright harvest moon. I remember Oatmeal Hill and Cornmeal Valley. I remember fist fights playing the dozens and running through the alleys. I remember looking for bicycle parts at the old city dump, and I remember going to parties, dances, and jumps. I remember the I remember the institutions and the pleasures they brought. I remember when they decided to wipe Rondo out. I remember when the bulldozers and the cranes came our way, bringing misery and destruction every day. I remember the holes, the dust, and the noisy sound as they buried our history deep in the ground. I remember the cry the people made as they cut down the trees that gave us shade. The memories are as fresh as yesterday because in our hearts and minds, they will never take Rondo away.
Now, the poem I Remember Rondo is really essential to a lot of texts that are used to commemorate the community. So, in a lot of books, especially in Evelyn's text, she also reflects on I Remember Rondo Day's poem.
And this here is a letter from the Secretary of Transportation, which represents, if I'm comparing it to the block book, the shift, which it means that to the conversation about gatherings and have the power to shift the context from retributive community to restorative community, from the conversations about problems to ones of possibility, and from a bet on the law and oversight preference for the building and social fabric of chosen accountability. And so this was a letter just acknowledging everything and talking about Rondo and what they'll do. And then it's dated October 7th, 2016. And so we're 2024, July 24th. Been a few years, and I gather it will take a few more years, about the same time frame, till we see the real turn. This is the Rondo Plaza. Go ahead, Riora.
So here is actually in the heart of Rondo, where they used a lot, and they decided to kind of make a beacon, kind of for people to be able to come and just revisit the site and revisit the space that really just still speaks of Rondo. And so, as the elders spoke, and as people are going through Rondo, it is changing some, but we want to remember what Rondo is. And so you have different images on the yellow kind of board there, and you just see different parts of Rondo, and then you really feel like you're a part, and you feel what was missing and what should still be sustained. And it's just a spot where you can go and be silent. It's a spot where you can take your family. It's a spot to remember Rondo. And so this is the Rondo Plaza, and it is actually very close to 94, and it is just a good spot. So if you can ever make your way over there, please take a look, check it out.
And this is the view of today's Rondo's neighborhood. This is over here and to your right at about 2 o'clock is Maxville Elementary, and back over 2 miles or a mile is Hamline University. But this is kind of the main shot of this. Not the whole Rondo neighborhood. It's a good try, but Rondo goes from Como, actually Maryland, over to Selby, and then from downtown St. Paul, then Little Platte, Lexington, and that whole area was considered Rondo when I was growing up in St. Paul in the mid '60s, early '70s, and it's just a very pleasant neighborhood to raise a family.
Yes, and so even back one. So even at Rondo, I myself went to Maxfield as well, and there weren't, you didn't have options. You just knew that you were going to your neighborhood school. I went to Maxfield. Many of the people in the neighborhood went to Maxfield. My parents knew the principal, knew everyone up and down the neighborhood. Both of my parents are actually families were in Rondo. They walked to school, to Central High School together. And so it was a community. You could borrow sugar from your neighbor. You knew generations of people throughout Rondo neighborhood. So um, as moving forward, there is going to be a plan set in place.
I hope throughout this presentation that you're not just hearing Rondo community. I was a part of this community. My family was in this community, and etc. I hope you're hearing that we are able to make a connection in the value, the revenue, the streets, the buildings, the landmarks, the community gatherings, the food, the smell, the culture, the music. I hope you're able to see that regardless of how we present Vogel and Block's text within our work, that community for us, especially people of color, is essential to the work that we do, is essential to how we live, is essential to how we self-medicate, how our mental health comes about. Being a part of a community is a way for us to celebrate each other, to commemorate each other, to support each other, and to be collaborative in so many different aspects. Looking at the Land Bridge Future Development is just another way of us digging into community outside of the connection that we're going to give you in explicit. Vogel's Art of Community and Peter Block's Community both emphasize the importance of fostering connections and building strong, resilient communities. Vogel focuses on practical strategies for creating inclusive and engaged communities, highlighting the role of shared purpose and collaborative leadership, much like how Rondo Days and the Bud Billiken Parade come together. In contrast, Block delves deeper into the philosophical and relational aspects of community building, emphasizing the need for authentic conversations, KMOJ, empowerment, small businesses setting up tents, and a sense of belonging, community walking down the street and participating. While Vogel offers a more hands-on approach, Block provides a broader, more introspective view on how individuals can come together to create a meaningful and transformative community experience, looking at the way our governors and our leadership and our political parties are participating in these small community gatherings. Both works complement each other by addressing different facets of community building, the same way that we are addressing community in a different viewpoint.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
This is our presentation.